Good. Hello, everyone. It's Renee Baribeau, and today I am with Shulamit Sofia. She is a modern elder, and I'm not going to go into her whole big bio because she's a therapist. She's done a lot. She's what sparked me to bring her on here is she's written a book called From Oi to Joy, but that still wasn't why I invited her here. I was recently at this expo up in San Rafael, and there was this delightful woman sitting on a chair outside my room before, that I was speaking in, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if she's coming into my lecture." Sure enough, she came into my lecture. She stayed, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, got up and left. And I'm there like, "Oh my God, this woman's left." Here I was so excited she was here, now she's gone. And then afterwards, we ran into each other very shortly after, and we struck up a nice conversation, and she told me why she left. When you get to be her age, at any age, if you're not getting what you want out of a lecture, by all means get up and leave. And it was a good lecture. It's too bad she missed half of it. But she missed all of the techniques that she was looking for. And when I was going through her books, one of the things that I realized is she's all about the technique. And you know me, I'm all about the story. So we're going to have a little bit of a convergence here. I want to know the story. She's positive. Look at her. Look how she's dressed so dapper and everything. In 87, she drove to San Rafael from San Francisco. Last week, she was over in New Mexico at a conference. As she approaches her 90s in a couple of years, she's still out there writing, promoting her book, and looking for more opportunities to share. It's something that we all want. And so I want to know how we got from oil.
Actually, I had a really hard childhood.
Okay.
And one of the blessings of that hard childhood was it gave me a direct spiritual connection that most younger kids don't have. In fact, when I was about 9 years old, I remember sitting with my father on the armchair in the front porch at my grandparents' house, and I said, "Do you believe in God?" I expected him to say yes and we'd have a nice conversation, but he said no. And I was so shocked because I knew. And then I said, "What do you think happens when you die?" He said, "Not appropriate for an 8 or 9 year old. You get buried and you decompose." So then I knew there was nothing more to talk about because I had a very strong connection with God. And that was my support growing up. And that was what saved me and gave me a different level of engaging with the world. So my whole life has been dedicated to helping people be better, feel better, have better lives. I became a social worker in the 60s in New York at Columbia, and it was a wonderful experience because that was the time of Kennedy and great hope for a better society. And I really kept all that hope going, and there was a lot of joy in doing one's life purpose. It's a little harder now to keep the joy when you want the world to be a better place and you see it not going in that direction. It just takes more work, and it means drawing your circle smaller and not paying attention to what you can't control in any way, because that'll only make you miserable. And like you said, I have all these techniques of how you can divert yourself in terms of thinking, in terms of practical things like going out in nature. So anybody who really wants some support in getting from oi to joy as they age, because as we all know, it's a challenging process. And what I didn't know when I wrote the book is how much more challenging it gets as you get older. So now I'm 88, a whole different ballgame from 85, and a totally, entirely different world from 80. So it takes a commitment to looking for the best you can do with what your resources are still available.
It's an interesting thing you say. A couple years ago, my niece got married, and my sister was all up in arms that my mother wasn't coming. And I said, listen, she's 85 years old. If she wants to sit in Maine and celebrate this occasion from there, let her. And what I think that the more that my mother's really chosen what works for her in her life, the happier she's gotten, that I recognize as she ages that she seems to be more at peace now with the decisions. And that doesn't mean she's sitting at home doing, she's playing mahjong and she's doing other things, but she's doing it with a lot more for herself and not for anyone else. Did you find that in these last few years as you made changes, it's more about what works in my life as opposed, because I think when we met, you said, my daughter's upset that I got in the car and drove up here all by myself.
I think it's not that so much as what you want to do that gives you satisfaction. And I think something kicks in, and Carl Jung, who wrote a lot about aging, says the most important thing you can do to prepare yourself for getting older is to come to terms with your impossible dream. All your aspirations, all that you strive for, all that you knock your head against the wall for. And I had a nonprofit. The way I dealt with my childhood trauma was to sublimate it into a social agency called Caring for Children, which addressed the needs of traumatized children. And we did it with children who were really traumatized, not just abused or orphaned, but kids who were migrants, kids who were in war zones, kids who just had no remnant of a normal childhood. And when COVID came, it was impossible to continue for several reasons. One was the kids were quarantined. The migrant kids who we were working with at the time were quarantined. Number two, even though child abuse went way up during COVID when kids were confined at home with abusive parents and couldn't get away to school or anything, couldn't have access to them. And the tool that we use to introduce ourselves and our techniques that followed in training for staff was to give a gift of a teddy bear. And the teddy bear, according to psychoanalytic literature, is called a transitional object, and it's much more than a toy. It gives a child an opportunity to relate in a safe place that's between the outside world and their inner fantasies. So we needed the teddy bears, and they were in China. And of course, all the supply chains were stopped. And sadly, according to values, my values, our funding dried up because children, mental health, especially migrant children or refugee children, did not have a high rating on what people wanted to donate during a crisis like COVID. So I had to close it, and it was heartbreaking, and it was difficult, and it was also the impetus for writing this book.
I was wondering what the impetus for
Yeah,
writing.
it was the impetus for writing the book. But I just wanted to say one more thing, that now I see it as a gift because I'm not hitting my head against an impossible task like I did. And in fact, the task is even more impossible because of all the wars that are going on. Every child in the Middle East is traumatized.
Most children we've all been traumatized. It's a traumatizing world we're living in for sure, I
Yeah,
think.
and think of all the migrant children, not migrant children, the immigrant children of people who's been torn away from their families. Anyway, I decided that was not a way to stay in joy, and it was time to switch. And so I began writing the book, and happy to be able to talk to you and to let people know that they have options, even if life doesn't go their way.
You're, what you're saying about, I never heard this thing about Jung and his impossible dreams, but all of a sudden when you mentioned it, it started to bring tears to my eyes. And I think this is a really good place where we can talk about this because I got laid off a year ago. And give it or take, they said, oh, that they would have, I thought they would have kept me a little bit longer, and a couple more years would have been to my ideal liking, but it's all good. But I've been struggling with that lately, this idea of what is still possible, what is not possible. And so this idea of that it's not a dream, it's a like a I'd like to hear a little bit more about this impossible dream. Not in terms of that that mission, yes, but how many times have you had to come to that dream was a dream you had to put away and come up with a new dream in your aging process?
I started it from scratch myself. I just got really lucky to have the kind of support I needed to start it. So that was a dream all by itself. And it was hard to sustain, but I was young. I had a lot of energy. It's what I wanted to do, and I devoted myself to that. When you're younger, and when younger I say under 50, your task is to build your life up and produce results, either economically or relationship-wise or whatever, career success, etc. You're striving, you're trying to make a difference in how you relate to the world and how the world receives you, and you can call it achievement or accomplishment or career success or whatever, but that's the outer directedness of that time frame. When you get older, and it starts late 50s, if you're at all sensitive, your spiritual side starts to pop up and say, what about me? You have a soul that's been ignored while focusing on your ego and what you want to achieve and feeling accomplished and all these outer directed things. It's time to go inward. The task of aging is to discover who you are and what you really want and how you want to spend your time. It then becomes your life. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. There's a joke about kids being so concerned about what their peers think and how it upsets them. And when they get to be adults, they realize it doesn't matter what their peers think. And when you get older, you realize they never thought about you at all anyway. They only thought about themselves. So it's letting all that go, giving yourself the attention, giving yourself the time to explore and discover, and then coming out with a variety of plans you may want to test or not test.
That makes a little sense, because when I was in my 20s, I had an astrologer tell me that in this lifetime I was married to spirit. And so spirit would tell me to go across the street, and I'd go across the street. And I saw a psychiatrist at the same time, and he said, oh, talk about, oh, boy, Renee, you started searching way too young. He said most women don't start searching until they hit menopause. And he said by menopause, you'll be like, oh, okay, I don't give a shit anymore. So this idea that for some people, we've been searching our whole life, and now we're searching and getting older, and these impossible dreams of, wow, did I not put enough in that bag over there in terms of my success and responsibility? So, but here you are on a book tour in your 80s. Tell me, what has that been like, juggling those naps with getting out there and trying to make connections? And let me tell you, she's a connector. She liked me, even though she didn't stay and listen to my lecture. She has pursued me to have a conversation. So I really have been looking forward to this, and looking forward to what I want to be dressed as sharp as you are and still speaking at 87. So tell me, what do I need to know from 68 to get me to 20 more years of joy?
All right, the first thing I'll tell you and all your readers, which is not psychological or spiritual, is every decade after 40, you lose 10% of your muscle mass. And what makes it really hard as you get older, and I'm physically active, I swim several times a week, I still do yoga and Tai Chi, and it's getting harder and harder to sustain my balance and feel strong because I don't have the muscles. So I would tell anyone post 50, exercise a lot, build up your muscles as much as you can. You're going to lose it, but you'll lose it from a higher level of mass. So that's number one, because that's what's going to keep you independent and able to be mobile. So that's number one. Number two is forget the past, it's gone. The reason the rear view window is so small is it's behind you. You shouldn't be paying that much attention to it. Look ahead. What is it you want? I was just thinking, I had been invited to write some articles for publications, and I think that even at my age, my mom lived to 102, and people are getting older all the time, faster. In fact, that's why the book is so important. And yeah, thank you. That's why the book is so important, because at the turn of the 19th century, the life expectancy was 47. By the 20s, it was like 58. So in the 30s, when they put in 65 as a retirement age, they felt they were pretty safe. Most people would be gone by then. As we know, it didn't turn out that way. The average age now is in the 80s. So people are living 20 and 30 years longer than they did a century ago. So what are you going to do with all that time? So I decided that I would advocate making a 5-year plan, even at my age. What do I want to do? And how am I going to get there? And who do I need to help me? And what are my resources? And one of the things I came up with, to go back to the question that you asked that I never answered about the book tour, is it's exhausting. And it takes a lot of energy to keep reaching out and keep reaching out. And once in a while you get a zinger. But most of it is just, you got to let it go. And I don't know how long I want to be doing that with the time I have left. So when I was in New Mexico, it was to do a workshop at the Modern Elder Academy. And this is for anyone at any age. There was someone in my group, there were only 10 in this group, but one was the daughter of an older woman who was 22. One was a young woman who was in her 40s who just quit a really high-powered job because they didn't promote her and they kept promoting the men. And the rest were young enough to be my children. In fact, they called me Mama San. And what it was called was Reinventing Your Life. And this whole MEA program was founded by the man who wrote the foreword to my book, Chip Conley, who decided during his midlife crisis that there needed to be more programs and support. And so my programs follow his as people get older. I consider my age group 70 plus, although people start to feel it, especially women in their late 40s. And certainly by the time they're 50, especially if they're concerned with their looks and they see what's happening to their face.
Forget the face. A couple of years ago, I'd gained a few pounds and I was like, okay, I guess this is what frumpy old age looks like. And I wasn't sure if I was comfortable. I was trying to get comfortable into that idea. And then I did the GL1s and lost some weight. And I don't exactly wasn't comfortable there either. And I still have a lot of energy to do the things that I like to do. And I want to put that idea of how I'm supposed to look away. Have you found that, or you're still swimming? Are you swimming for your health, or you're swimming you dress really nice and you're really put together really well? So is it about your look or is it about how you feel?
No, it's totally about how I feel, because if I don't swim, I get really stiff.
Okay.
Everybody does. And so I feel so much better after I do. It's also a way to socialize, which is also really important when you get older and you don't have as many friends and it's harder to make new friends, to be part of a community. And this particular aqua class, which is held 5 days, it's held 7 days a week, but the weekends are 8 o'clock in the morning, so I don't make it. It has become a community. We know each other, and it's like coming into a clubhouse, except you can't drink coffee, you're jumping up and down. So it has both of those benefits.
I think that's really important to the idea of socialization and community. And because we all come in at different places, some people might have only needed a couple people in their life to start with. And I can tell you probably were way more social. And I'm social and then I'm a hermit as well. But I do need those times where I go out and touch in.
Mhm.
I get them. So I can see where that would be definitely a part of longevity is to keep social. Tell me the one that I'm curious about. What about your memory? How's the memory doing?
My memory was never good, so you can't count on me. I played memory games with my daughter, who's now 49, when she was 3, and she won all the time because once it was turned over, I forget it. That's just my brain. So I got tested, and I don't have any plaque or dementia or Alzheimer's, and I still can't remember.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this brain wave taken a couple years ago, and he said, "Frankly, Renee, you just don't give a shit."
I think
And
it's more a matter of paying attention and getting the stimuli recorded carefully because I kind of go too fast and whatever.
I think this is great because you're a lot like me. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to live to write books into my 80s because I do have a couple more books to write. So tell us, I love your business card, by the way, with the benefits of aging. Why don't you talk to us about the benefits of aging?
I'm glad you asked because it's really important to focus on the positive. And
Mhm.
there's so many losses in terms of mobility and physical strength and whatever. One of the benefits is if you give yourself permission, you realize it's your time. You've done it. You've done your job. You've fulfilled your roles. You've done your responsibilities. It's your time. What do you want to do? What I want to do now is to get more into art, which I've always done little bits. I've got a lot of paintings of mine and other drawings, but nothing compared to somebody who devotes themselves to doing it. And now I want to do that, especially as it gets harder to navigate the world. And that's partly getting older, and it's partly that the world's just plain harder to navigate.
Oh my God, you're not kidding.
Yeah. So I'm planning to stay home more and paint. And you may want to write your book or whatever else you want to do, and that's a source of satisfaction.
Actually, I always said I took up painting when I got burnt out on cooking once. Creatives have a lot of creativity. And so about a year ago, I got myself back to art class. And I noticed that I could still paint and a really good art teacher. I'm very excited about her. But I noticed that I thought I would get right back into it when I got back to Whidbey. And it's taken a back burner behind painting the closet door and painting walls and painting. And I want to put some more emphasis to it. And must not because I don't go there enough. And like, I hope I don't have to wait until I'm 90 to start painting, but who knows? Maybe I will.
Maybe you can just put all your equipment, paints, and things, set them up on a table somewhere out of the way, and they're there.
I
So
have that. I have a studio.
yeah, so that you don't have to start putting things together when you get the impulse. You can just walk right over and start doing it.
This is me. I saw there was a contest to enter a painting into, and they're like, oh, there's a good reason to finish that painting. I need that little impetus still. Sounds like you get a lot of your impetus from your inner impetus. Is that true?
I find that if I go with my inner urges, life's a lot easier. That's how I write my book. It's funny. I'm a Gemini. I don't know. What are you?
I'm a Libra. That's funny. We both got those two aspects of ourselves.
An air. And it's interesting. There's a man who I also met through Chip Conley at the Modern Elder Institute, whose name is Abraham Verghese, who your readers might know, your followers might know, because he wrote Covenant of Water, which was a bestseller, sold millions of copies. And he's a Gemini, and I asked him how he wrote, because he's also a physician with a full-time job at Stanford Medical School. And he said he wrote when he felt like it, when the urge came.
Wow.
And that's how I write. I'm not disciplined like John Cheever, who gets up at 5 o'clock every morning, or did, to write. If it comes, I just write it and I put it there and I figure out how to fit it in and let the editor deal with it.
That's interesting because I'm more, one time I had very big full-time jobs, and this man on social media world or something, I said, "How did you find time to write a book?" And he said, "I got up 2 hours earlier every day." So that's what I did. Like when I'm writing a book, Spirit has me up by 5 because I took that 5 to 7. Although what I'm noticing now without the job, my timing is shifting. Have you noticed when as you aged, your timing shifted and you did things at a different pace?
I haven't had a job since COVID, since I gave up my nonprofit. So I just do everything at my own pace. I don't use an alarm clock. I have a morning routine of these different exercises classes, and I figure out what I feel like doing. And the truth is, I'm probably not pushing enough to really get a breakthrough, but it takes 2 or 3 years to build that momentum, and then I'm going to be, like you said, 90.
I've never used an alarm in my life because if I know the alarm's set, then I don't get any sleep. So I'm more of an internal rhythm. It's interesting we have similarities and differences on these things,
Yeah.
yet we're both really highly motivated and get the job done. So if you're listening, it's not her way or my way, but finding, I believe what she's saying is finding your own tools in her book that can make your way work for you. What is your
And if you focus on joy, you have
Mhm.
more energy. It's very debilitating to focus on I. And I write about the dreadful D's, which are discouragement, difficulty, doubt, thinking about
Depression?
depression, feeling down, everything's,
I never knew there were so many D's until I looked at your book.
yeah,
D's:
yes,
orientation, distancing, deterioration, despair, defeat, detachment, dysfunction, disappointment, depression. I like that part of your book a lot. I
yeah,
never knew the D's.
yeah. And then there's the A's, which I encourage people to focus on, which is,
Love the A's.
yeah, which is if you don't fight the world the way it is, and you're not going to win, so forget it. If you just accept that's how it is and adjust to it, you're going to be a lot happier because you're not going to make it better by fighting it anyway. And there's a book by Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor. He was a psychiatrist. He'd talk about books. He had written a whole manuscript, and when they took him to Auschwitz, he had sewn it in his coat lining, but they took his coat away and he lost the whole thing. And he decided that the only thing they could not take away was his attitude. And the people who got discouraged and gave up died mostly. But if you had an attitude that you were going to get through it, how horrible it was, and they couldn't control your thoughts, then you were able to survive. And not as dramatically in everyday life, but that's the case. If you have a positive attitude, if you can get joy from a little flower or a sunny day or something small. I just got really tickled. I was at a county fair and I see this little thing walking really fast, and it was a child. And I said to the mother, "How old is she?" And she said, 1 year old. Now, 1 year olds don't usually walk really fast, but it was such a funny thing, just so cute and so little. And it just brightened up. Even now, thinking about it, I just really enjoy it. So that exists everywhere. You have to train yourself to be open to perceiving it.
What's your favorite A?
Oh, wow. The hardest one, and I think the most important one, is accepting. It is what it is. It is what it is. You don't want it, but you got it. So you might as well handle it with grace and equanimity. Somebody once told me you get what you get and you don't get upset.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I
that's
believe
the
you can
goal.
get upset.
Huh?
You can get upset. Isn't it okay to get upset sometimes?
Well, it's a waste of energy. There's no judgment to it. It only takes you down. You can not like it without it really getting you very upset if you train
Oh,
yourself.
I like to have my pity pot sometimes.
I do too. Sometimes I just get into bed. I have all these silky blankets and forget the world. But that's okay when you're older because you're supposed to forget the world because eventually the world's going to forget you, and you might as well take advantage of the transition, letting go little by little.
Either that or they don't forget you because you're going to have a book for them to find. I wrote a book called Winds of Spirit. And one of the things that I realized about Winds of Spirit is it may have far more impact after I'm dead. And so I think that's the thing with books is we're reading Viktor Frankl now. We're reading some of the books that for the 1900s came around in the last 20 years as the greatest wisdom of all eternity. So I think that's why. But I think that we write books because our soul requires us to write a book.
Yeah, and and art also. Think about Van Gogh. He sold one painting in his entire life, and now they sell for, I don't know, 14 million. I don't know, 90 million. Amazing.
Exactly. I know. And my paintings have been soul work. I haven't wanted them to sell. I've only sold a couple when I needed money, and that luckily people were there to buy them when I wanted them. So I understand that. It's like, how do we feed the soul? So I want you to first of all, tell our readers how they can find your book and give them do you have a website? Give them that little website spiel.
My website, the book sub theme, even though it's called Making the Best of the Rest of Your Life, is a spiritual approach to aging. It's giving up the ego and going for the soul. That's what's going to make the best adjustment possible. So I call the work I do spiritual aging. And my website is spiritualaging.org, not com, org. Spiritualaging.org. And you can find all my contact information there. The book is on Amazon. It's in Kindle and it's paperback copy. And it's in bookstores around the Bay Area mostly.
So have you considered putting it on audiobook? Because I noticed one of the things on my books, I get a lot of people listening. My Audible are my biggest commissions, if I should say I get any commissions, but they seem to be regular. So
Yeah, you're the second person in 2 days who suggested that. So I'll talk to you after this and you can advise me how to do
I
that.
just would like to say that I think a lot of people, especially people who are aging gracefully, are out taking walks and they may listen to your book and get some good ideas while they're walking. Because I have a walking book myself, The Pilgrim's Guide to Walking Wisdom. And I want you to leave us with one thing about making our 5-year plan. Give us a vision of your 5-year plan for us and for yourself.
To make a 5 year plan, you need to be optimistic and you need to be realistic at the same time, in that you're going to have less energy. So you need to focus on what's really important. And and it's not what you think you should or what anyone expects of you. It's really what you never had a chance to do. What will make you be the person you were meant to be, not shaped by culture or society or parents or expectations or whatever. So to get there, and I haven't spoken about this much, but it's in the book, is I encourage people to meditate and to meditate on a regular basis because it calms your body and it calms your vagus system and it calms your soul. And as you meditate, thoughts come to you, and you may have negative thoughts you don't like. You can't stop them from coming, but you can stop them from staying. There's a whole section in the book about what I have borrowed a term called ants, automatic negative thoughts. And just like you don't want ants in your house, you don't want ants in your mind. And there are certain techniques to let go of them. So the more you meditate and the more you release the ants and they stop coming, the more other things start to appear as possibilities or interests. And you'll begin to have a sense, is that what you really want to do? So experiment. If you want to travel and you're not quite sure, take a little trip within a couple hours. Or if you want to paint, make the time to paint.
I love that. Yeah, I glossed over that meditation one because I move a lot and I walk and I do those other things. And so that sitting and meditating hasn't been one that I've put so much effort into my life, but maybe I'll give that one some thought.
You can do a walking meditation.
Okay, good, thanks.
There's a Zen walking meditation. You cup your hands, you put one hand on top of the other, and you take a step with one foot, and you stop, and you pause, and you rest there for a bit. And then you take one step with the other foot and do the same. And it's very slow, which is what makes it meditation, but you're not sitting, you're moving.
All right, that hardly sounds like moving to me, but I'm gonna give it a try, a good try. Well,
Okay.
I want to thank you for coming here and being with us, and hopefully people will go out and get your book and check out our website.
Yeah,
And
I really hope they do, because for their own benefit, they're going to find a lot of value in learning new ways of making the best of the rest of their life.
I love that.
Thank you.
Best out of the rest of your life.
Yeah.
What a way to end. Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity.